Gaming's favorite villain Konami have caused EA stock to drop by $660 million. Ubisoft have revealed the scope of PC gaming. GTA's gambling becomes a reality. Blizzard may have actually listened to players, shockingly. Ops IIII has got just a little bit more pay to win. And of course, over in Anthem land, they almost had an update. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Roundup, our twice per week gaming news show, now with a little bit of a fresh lick of paint. Let's get into the news. EA have lost a major draw and their stock value has immediately felt the hit. Their partnership with Juventus, a insanely popular Italian football club, has came to an end. So instead of renewing with the team, Juventus have now partnered with Konami for Pro Evolution Soccer for 3 years. What does this mean? Well, it means that EA can no longer use their intellectual property, so they can't use the stuff of the club. Instead, they have to replace it with a fictional team that will use authentic players, both with their names and their faces. However, it does seem like Konami will get access to the players for the up-to-date 3D scans. Konami seem to finally be striking back against FIFA by trying to give Pro Evo a more solid fan base in Europe, where they have historically lost out because of the lack of official licensing. Remember now that FIFA makes up 14% of EA's total net revenue, and what makes this more interesting is the fast effect that it had on their valuation. So on Tuesday, when the announcement was made, stock dropped 3% in value. What does that tell us? Well, I think number one, markets knee-jerk. They overreact. It won't be that bad for that long. And there's also definitely, though, a danger of having all of your eggs in one basket. It does mean that any hits to FIFA will damage EA greatly, although I doubt this is going to have that much impact because of FIFA's established European dominance. Next up, though, we've got more Activision pay to win, which I know you love. Last month, a batch of weapons were added to the Black Ops 4 loot crate system. Now, we've talked about this before, but one of them was the Stingray, which, with a explosive round mod, was a burst fire rifle that would one-shot people. Yeah, that's a massive balance problem, and one with a very simple fix, but it took them over a month to fix it, furthering player claims the Blops 4 is getting kind of pay to win. Now, shortly after the Stingray was patched, they've done basically the same thing again. This time, there's an explosive crossbow, the Reaver C86, that does extreme amounts of damage. So much damage that it renders the Safeguard game mode moot, as you can destroy the payload in a single 6-bolt clip of the weapon. Now, this, like the Stingray, is available from the loot boxes, so if you want a weapon that can significantly increase your odds of winning that game mode, just throw your money into the loot boxes, or reserve crates as they call them, and hope for the best. Now, making the exact same mistake twice in a row, let's be real, that's kind of unlikely. Now, assuming the worst isn't always the correct approach, given the repeated balance mistakes and the delays on the fixes, even with Treyarch staff acknowledging concerns quite quickly in Reddit, well, you can come to your own conclusion. It could go either way. I've seen some comments saying it's a win-win for the company, that they get money from players rushing to get the OP weapon, while the developers get to accept the feedback from the community and make fixes, albeit slowly, which, I mean, it's a bit of an odd thing to be having happen, isn't it? Overall, though, it's continually a bit terrible with this game. We know that they felt its early revenue was disappointing, and as we've covered in the other videos, they've continually pushed their microtransactions further and further. They've been okay with pay to win, and now we're in this current state where, yeah, guns, something that's vital to the game, are locked behind their loot boxes, which is just unacceptable. Next, though, we've got another spicy game. It's time to revisit Anthem, a game that has been very quiet. Now, Anthem's Cataclysm has been in testing since June, but it's shown no signs of actually coming to the live servers. Until just recently. On Monday, a player spotted a timer that was added to the game. This timer counted down the oncoming storm with a 7-day timer plus a visual teaser of said storm. This got people excited, very excited. Remember, they've heard nothing but whispers for like 6 weeks now, and that's quite a long time for a game that is a live service in active development. But sadly, their hopes were dashed. According to a BioWare community manager, that change was not supposed to go live until a slightly later date. They apologized for the confusion, but again, it doesn't really inspire that much confidence, does it? While this is a mistake, it's a bit of a sort of cruel mistake for these community members who are excited about the game. They're chomping at the bit for more content. They want it to be better, and it's just not happening. And I think while staying silent and just taking action rather than placating fans with vague statements, I think that is the direction that BioWare should take. But while I think that's the case, it does look like the team is making minimal progress. If there is a large enough team working in this game, I would imagine that they are, sorting out their production and getting their back-end improvements going instead of just farming out content super quick to get the fans in. However, given the development issues that the game has faced in the past, it's possible that they're quite simply just not making much progress. Still, it's not all grim, because over at Ubisoft, things seem to be going up. In their Q1 fiscal year 19 to 20 sales report, they mention a few things of note. First, Assassin's Creed Odyssey has had a sharp increase in daily engagement and comparable sell-through with Origins, surely because of their DLC schedule and the new story mode creator. Then, Rainbow Six Siege is one of the top 10 best-selling titles, in fact, in the industry over the last 5 years, and that is measured in $60 units sold. Very impressive indeed. Then The Division 2 is straight up the highest selling game this year so far on console and PC. It simply sold more units than any other game. They also mention strong performance at E3 with Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Watch Dogs Legion, and Roller Champions all doing fantastic by the metrics they were tracking. Their CEO went on to say that they are well above target for this quarter because of high recurring player investment and engagement, especially in Siege and Odyssey, and he claimed that their lineup for this fiscal year, which includes Quarantine and Gods and Monsters, is one of the strongest they've had in the last 5 years. But the most interesting thing for me is the breakdown of bookings by platform. Switch was down at 5%, and their various mobile offerings only earned 7%. Xbox One was 18% of the pie, and the PS4 was a lot more than that, 31% of the pie. However, the real kicker is that PC was on top. PC accounted for 34% of the money that Ubisoft brought in, which is in sharp contrast to 24% the same period last year. So it might be easy to see this and think, hang on a second, has PC gaming just had a 50% rise? Well, while PC gaming does appear to be increasing in popularity, I think that Ubisoft have also been doing a good job with their live service model and their updates, and that probably has led to a lot of revenue. Their reliance on maintaining their live services just makes me believe that players who would usually spend on a number of, say, different games across Steam are instead spending a lot of that money on Ubisoft DLC, season passes, and microtransactions. Now, outside of some of those microtransactions, a lot of them, the XP kerfuffle with Odyssey, that stuff, I think Ubisoft have fundamentally did a pretty good job. They have released quite a lot of content for their games, and as far as the live services go, I think Ubisoft are pretty much coming out on top. Then Ubisoft are doubling down on PC as well with UPlay Plus, which is their own subscription service. So they've announced a list of games that will be available, and it's over 100 games long. Now this is going to cost $15 a month, but it's going to include all of Ubisoft's new games, including Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Watch Dogs Legion, Rainbow Six Quarantine, and Gods and Monsters. Then as for the back catalogue, well, it's almost everything of value. The Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Tom Clancy, and Prince of Persia series are all there, and then even games like the Trials series, Beyond Good and Evil, Steep, and the Might and Magic games being included. Now, the games are mostly coming as either their Deluxe, Gold, or Ultimate editions, so they should include all of the DLC. Now, there is fine print on the page saying that it may not have all premium content, but I think that's just to cover them in case there's a genuine issue there. Like with Origin Access Premier, basically, if you're a fan of the Ubisoft franchises massively and you want to play them all, it could end up working out okay for you. $15 a month is not that cheap though, but if you are purchasing 3 full price games every year or a gold edition every 6 months, then it could maybe work out. But of course, you've got to remember you only have access to that content while you are still subscribed, so that does impact the value proposition. Now, there was originally a small controversy surrounding this, as some European pages were showing the standard editions of games instead of the premium ones. Ubisoft have since confirmed to VG247 that this was a error, like just a display error, and there will be no regional differences between the UPlay plus bits of content whatsoever. So yeah, it's nice to see them sticking on their promised policies. So with that, we've got an update on the G2A saga. Okay, G2A have proposed a solution to the shady key resells. When they proposed their key blocker, they opened by saying they got a lot of feedback and they realized they were a bit short-sighted on some issues. They claim that they now understand the developers are concerned almost more so about review and giveaway keys being resold, so they are working on a tool to protect against that. Now, they're not actually working on the tool. They say that if at least 100 indie devs sign up to be validated with G2A through the system, then they'll begin the development work. Now, this system basically is just a key blacklist, so devs can submit keys to the blacklist, indicating whether they are a review or a giveaway key. And if they're giveaway keys, then G2A will allow the sale of up to 3 of those keys from a single seller, but no more. Now, G2A agree that review keys should never be sold, but they do believe the customers have a right to sell keys that they acquire or they win through a giveaway, and I think that's fair, but that they will limit that quantity because of the potential for abuse via botting. Now, overall, I think this tool is a pretty good idea, but I think G2A's bullish approach does leave a poor taste in the mouths of most people. They're never really willing to admit that they're wrong. They always want developers to step up and confirm they're in before they go ahead and spend any time or money, and parts of that are fair, but it's also absolutely not how you garner goodwill with the community, and I think that's one thing they're definitely missing. And I suppose on that topic, that's not all. The Factorio developers mentioned G2A in one of their recent blog posts, saying that they had about 300 keys purchased fraudulently, and that's cost them about $6,600 with an average chargeback fee of $20 per key. Now remember that G2A did say they would basically pay devs back 10 times what they lose when this happens if it's sold through their platform. So having heard from users that they had their keys that they purchased through G2A be revoked, they then contacted them about the article and G2A offered to check the keys. The Factorio dev sent over an email with the list of the keys and asked how many of them were sold in G2A, but they got no reply. G2A have since released an update saying that they and the Factorio devs have together decided on a third party to audit the situation, and they are reaching out to that company now. They also reaffirmed that they will allow all legally obtained items to be sold on their site and have announced the 17 companies who have signed up for their key blocking service so far. Now, the Factorio developer goes on to say that regional fraud is another issue with the grey market, one that G2A is not addressing, with games being purchased in cheaper regions and resold for more expensive ones, and they also mention market speculation, keys being purchased when a game is cheap, say in early access, only to be sold when a game's RRP increases, such as full launch. And I get the developer's frustration there, but being real with you, I think that's kind of fair. Yes, it's disadvantageous to developers, there's less control there, but this happens in just about every market where consumers can resell goods. And I guess from my perspective, if somebody is entrepreneurial enough to take the risk, then hey, by all means. And with that covered, let's get into the rapid fire section. So, Nintendo have announced that they are updating the base Switch units to have significantly better battery life, something that would address one of the console's larger gripes. We're still waiting on a launch date though, but when that does happen, you'll still need to make sure that you're purchasing one with the correct model number that actually is updated. Then over in Overwatch news, well, they've done something quite large. They've introduced a role queue. Yes, Blizzard seem to be listening to players. How wild. You will get role-based skill ratings, and as the mode suggests, it will result in players getting more reasonable team comps. Yes, a little bit of freedom there is gone, but fundamentally, those roles are very defined in the game. 3-3, I think most people can agree, is a very bad meta for the game. So this does go a long way to helping both Overwatch's meta by giving it reasonable design bounds and just making the default play experience a lot better by locking in roles. I mean, it seems to have worked for LoL, seems like it will work here. The game is a long way to go, but it is good progress. And then next up over in Los Santos, Rockstar are opening up their casino. There's not much to say yet, bar it being quite funny given the game's deep monetization and of course your ability to purchase in-game currency via shark cards. So because of this, one does have to wonder how bad it will look for Rockstar and I suppose the gaming industry if players can turn their real money into in-game money and then literally gamble it all away in the slots. So that's kind of funny. But finally, we've got a bit of good news. Capcom have revealed that Monster Hunter World has sold 13 million units. And there's not much to say bar this. That's a massive achievement, and thankfully it shows you can still do well by releasing a quality game at a reasonable price, and I think that's what we all want. So there you go, that is it for today's episode of the Roundup. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell. Ringing the bell is actually super important for us over in YouTube. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of this being spruced up. We try to add in some more titles, make the show a little bit more snappier, and you'll find more in the description and the time code. So hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for supporting this channel. Thank you very much to all the patrons who support this channel as well. And with that, I will see you next time.